The endless expanse of the galaxy was filled with shimmering stars, each a distant sun, each indifferent to the struggles of the beings within their orbit. Among them moved a solitary ship, its surface darkened by battle scars, its engines burning, with a purpose that defied the odds. The Resolute wasn't humanity's most advanced vessel, nor its fastest, but it was one of the few that had survived the Ether Dominion's relentless purge. And it carried with it something far more valuable than firepower, a will that refused to break. Captain Isolde stood at the bridge, her sharp gray eyes scanning the holographic display of the surrounding starfield. Her long, dark braid hung over one shoulder, and her uniform, though battered, was clean, a small defiance against chaos. The ship's AI, Zelric, flickered into view on the console, its luminous avatar shaped like a shifting orb of light. "Captain, we are approaching the coordinates of the destroyed starbase," Zelric reported. Its voice was melodic, as if laced with an otherworldly song. "Minimal energy signatures detected, likely debris fields." "Any signs of life?" Isolde asked, her voice calm but edged with weariness. "Faint readings. A distress beacon of alien origin. Approximately 30,000 clicks from the primary wreckage." Isolde's hand rested on the console as she considered her options. Every survival instinct told her to avoid unnecessary risks. The Dominion hunted survivors like her with ruthless efficiency, and pausing to investigate an alien signal could draw their attention. Yet if there was even a chance to gain allies, or at least valuable information, she couldn't ignore it. "Adjust course to the signal," she said, her tone resolute. "Acknowledged. Plotting intercept trajectory." The Resolute hummed as its engines shifted, the ship gliding toward the source of the beacon. Isolde paced the bridge, her boots tapping softly against the metal floor. Her crew had once filled these halls with noise and camaraderie, but now the emptiness pressed in on her like a heavy weight. She shook off the thought. Survival left no room for nostalgia. The wreckage of the alien vessel loomed into view, its shattered crystalline hull glinting in the faint light of a nearby star. The design was unfamiliar, even to Isolde, who had spent years studying the various alien species that roamed the galaxy. The ship looked organic, its structure flowing like frozen liquid. "Life signs?" Isolde asked. "One," Zelric replied. "Faint but stable. The being appears to be unconscious." Isolde exhaled slowly. "Prepare for docking. I'm going." "In." The airlock hissed as it sealed behind her. Isolde adjusted her breathing apparatus, her pulse steady as she stepped into the alien vessel. The interior was dim, with faintly glowing veins running along the walls, pulsing like a heartbeat. The silence was eerie, broken only by the faint hum of residual power. She followed Zelric's guidance, her plasma pistol drawn. Every step was cautious, every shadow a potential threat. At last, she reached what appeared to be the ship's control room. Slumped against a shattered console was the figure of an alien, tall and slender, their silver skin gleaming like liquid metal even in the dim light. A deep gash ran across their torso and their breathing was shallow. "Human," the alien murmured as she approached, their voice a faint melody of tones and words. "I'm here to help," Isolde said, her tone firm but not unkind. "Can you move?" The alien's violet eyes fluttered open, filled with a mix of suspicion and relief. "I can try." She crouched beside them, slipping her arm under their shoulders to help them to their feet. The alien winced, but didn't resist, as she led them back toward the airlock. Their steps were unsteady, their weight light against her side. Once aboard the Resolute, she guided the alien to the medbay, where Zelric's diagnostic scanners immediately went to work. "Species: Halotherian," the AI reported. "Injuries: consistent with plasma weaponry, administering appropriate care." The alien, Raekir as they introduced themselves, watched her with wary eyes as she prepared a nutrient solution. Their voice was soft but steady when they spoke again. "Why did you save me?" "Because you're not Dominion," Isolde replied simply. And right now, anyone who isn't Dominion might be worth saving. Raekir's lips curved into a faint smile. You are bold, human. Foolish, perhaps, but bold. Boldness is all I've got left, she said, her smirk tinged with bitterness. Over the next few hours, Raekir recovered enough to share fragments of his story. His vessel had been part of a resistance fleet that had tried, and failed, to outmaneuver the Dominion. He had been the lone survivor of a devastating ambush. Why fight them? Isolde asked as they sat in the mess hall, the glow of a nearby star painting the room in soft light. Your people could have surrendered, joined their empire. Raekir's gaze hardened. Because submission is not survival. The Dominion does not tolerate defiance, even in its vassals. They demand obedience, and when they have it, they demand more. My people would rather die free than live as their slaves. Isolde nodded, her respect for him growing. Then we have something in common. For the first time, Raekir's expression softened. Perhaps we do. As the ship drifted through the void, Isolde couldn't shake the feeling that she had set something in motion, something far larger than herself. With Raekir's help, she began to piece together a plan, one that might give both of their peoples a fighting chance. But the Dominion was vast and unrelenting, and Isolde knew the road ahead would be anything but easy. The Resolute moved through the black expanse of space like a shadow, avoiding Dominion patrol routes and skirting asteroid fields for cover. Its once pristine hull bore the marks of countless battles, a testament to its survival against odds no one believed possible. Inside, Captain Isolde studied the holographic map of the galaxy, the Dominion's territories illuminated in oppressive red. At her side stood Raekir, his silver skin gleaming faintly in the dim bridge light. The alien's wounds had healed, remarkably well thanks to his species' advanced biology and the ship's medical systems. His movements were now steady, his posture upright. Despite their initial wariness of each other, Isolde and Raekir had found a tenuous understanding, one born of shared loss and unyielding defiance. What you propose is madness, Raekir said, his voice calm but edged with doubt. A single ship against an empire of this magnitude? Even with my knowledge, the odds are incalculable. Isolde didn't look up from the map. They always are, she said matter-of-factly. But sitting around waiting to die isn't much of a plan either. Raekir's gaze flickered over, her lingering on the hard lines of her expression. You're willing to risk everything on this gamble? Isolde turned to him, her gray eyes sharp. I'm alive because of gambles. And so are you. If we're going to survive, we need to start thinking bigger. The Dominion isn't invincible. They've made it seem that way for centuries. Then it's time we change the narrative, Isolde said firmly. As the ship drifted in the shadow of a massive asteroid, Raekir began sharing more of what he knew. His people, the Halatharians, had developed advanced technology capable of disrupting Dominion communication networks, a critical vulnerability in their otherwise seamless operations. The device, known as the Lycoris Matrix, had been lost during a failed resistance mission, its last known location deep within Dominion-controlled space. If we could retrieve it, Raekir explained, his tone grave, it would allow us to disrupt their coordination and create a window for a larger strike. But the Dominion guards it fiercely. It's housed on Erithos Prime, one of their most fortified outposts. Isolde studied the holographic map, focusing on the glowing red dot that represented Erithos Prime. The outpost was strategically positioned in the heart of Dominion territory, surrounded by defense grids, patrols, and surveillance drones. How do we get in? She asked. Raekir hesitated. The outpost's defenses are formidable, but there's a weakness, a blind spot in their sensor grid near the southern pole. It's small and heavily monitored, but it's there. If we can infiltrate that sector, we might have a chance to reach the Matrix. Might? Isolde raised an eyebrow. It's not a guarantee, Raekir admitted, but it's the only option. The journey to Erithos Prime was tense. The Dominion's presence thickened as they ventured deeper into enemy territory. Zelric, the ship's AI, monitored their path with meticulous precision, weaving the Resolute through gaps in patrol patterns. Approaching Erithos Prime, Zelric announced as the planet came into view on the main screen. Its surface was a swirling mass of crimson storms, its skies alive with flashes of lightning. The Dominion's presence was unmistakable. Dozens of warships orbited the planet, their sleek forms bristling with weapons. Activate stealth protocols, Isolde ordered. The Resolute shimmered as its cloaking field engaged, rendering it nearly invisible to enemy sensors. Isolde's hands tightened on the console as the ship slipped closer to the southern pole. Blind spot detected, Zelric reported. Deploying infiltration beacon. A small device launched from the ship, embedding itself in the planet's atmosphere. It emitted a low-frequency signal designed to mask their approach. "This is where it gets tricky," Isolde muttered. "Raekir, you're up." Raekir nodded, his expression unreadable. He had insisted on accompanying Isolde on the ground mission, arguing that his knowledge of Dominion systems was critical to their success. Isolde had agreed, though she had warned him that there would be no second chances if things went wrong. The planet's surface was as hostile as its orbit. Howling winds and crimson lightning created a chaotic landscape, but Isolde and Raekir pressed on, their environmental suits shielding them from the worst of the elements. They moved quickly, avoiding the patrol drones that hovered like predatory insects. "Over there," Raekir said, pointing to a jagged structure that loomed in the distance. "That's the entry point." The structure was a Dominion outpost, its walls made of blackened metal that seemed to absorb the light around it. Isolde scanned the area, her sharp eyes noting the patterns of the guards and surveillance systems. "We'll have to time this perfectly," she said. "Zelric, patch into their network and feed us their patrol schedules." "Accessing now," the AI replied, transmitting data. With the patrol patterns displayed on their visors, Isolde and Raekir moved like shadows, slipping past guards and cameras with practiced precision. Isolde's pulse quickened as they approached the main entrance, a towering set of reinforced doors. "Raekir, can you get us in?" Raekir knelt by the control panel, his fingers moving quickly over the alien interface. "Their encryption is advanced, but I've seen it before. Give me a moment." The seconds stretched into an eternity as Isolde kept watch, her plasma pistol drawn. Finally, the doors slid open with a low hiss. "After you, Captain," Raekir said, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. Inside, the outpost was cold and sterile, its halls illuminated by harsh white light. The duo moved quickly, guided by the schematics Raekir had retrieved. The Licorice Matrix was housed in a heavily secured chamber at the heart of the facility. "Security checkpoint ahead," Raekir warned. 4 guards, armed. Isolde nodded, her grip tightening on her weapon. "Stay behind me." With calculated precision, she moved into position, her shots taking down 2 guards before they could react. Raekir dispatched the remaining 2 with a combination of agility and alien weaponry that left Isolde impressed. "You're not bad in a fight," she remarked as they continued forward. "I've had practice," Raekir replied, his tone dry. They reached the chamber housing the Licorice Matrix without further incident. The device was suspended in a containment field, its crystalline structure glowing with a pulsating blue light. "Beautiful," Raekir murmured, awe in his voice. "Focus," Isolde snapped. "How do we disable the field?" Raekir approached, the console, his fingers flying over the controls. "I'll need a few minutes, keep an eye out." As Raekir worked, Isolde positioned herself near the entrance, her weapon ready. The tension in the air was palpable, each second dragging like an eternity. "Almost there," Raekir said, his voice tight. Suddenly, an alarm blared, and the lights shifted to an ominous red. Isolde's heart sank as she heard the sound of approaching footsteps. "They know we're here," she said grimly. Raekir didn't look up. "Just buy me time." The next few minutes were a blur of chaos. Dominion soldiers poured into the chamber, their weapons blazing. Isolde moved with lethal precision, her shots finding their marks as she fought to hold the line. Raekir worked, feverishly, his focus unbroken despite the chaos around him. "Got it?" he shouted as the containment field deactivated. "Grab it and move," Isolde barked. Raekir snatched the matrix, its crystalline surface glowing brightly in his hands. Together, they fought their way back through the outpost, their movements perfectly synchronized. By the time they reached the surface, the Resolute was waiting, its engines roaring as it hovered just above the ground. "Go, go, go!" Isolde shouted as they boarded the ship. The Resolute surged upward, its engines burning brightly as it shot into the atmosphere. Dominion ships gave chase, but Zelric's expert maneuvering and the ship's cloaking field allowed them to escape. The stars once again surrounded them. Isolde slumped into her chair, her breath heavy but steady. Raekir placed the matrix on the console, a small smile on his face. "You did it," he said. "No," Isolde replied, her gaze fixed on the glowing device. "We did." The Resolute soared through the void, its engines humming as it raced to put as much distance as possible between itself and Erithos Prime. The Dominion outpost had been thrown into chaos after the theft of the Lycoris matrix, and Isolde Vira knew it wouldn't take them long to regroup. The Dominion never left loose ends. Raekir carefully placed the matrix in a secure containment unit in the engineering bay. The crystalline device pulsed faintly, a rhythmic glow that seemed almost alive. It was both beautiful and foreboding, its power undeniable. Isolde stood nearby, arms crossed, her gray eyes locked on the device. "You said this could disrupt their communications," she said, her tone sharp. "How long until we can use it?" Raekir adjusted the containment field, his silver fingers gliding over the controls. "The Matrix is designed to interface with Dominion systems, but it needs a core frequency to target. Without that, it's like firing blind into the dark." Isolde's jaw tightened. "And where do we get a frequency?" Raekir hesitated, his gaze flickering toward her. "From one of their command ships. They operate as central hubs for communication across entire sectors. If we can capture one, the Matrix can tap into its systems." Isolde let out a low breath, her fingers drumming against her arm. "You're suggesting we hijack a Dominion command ship? It's the most direct option," Raekir said evenly. "Difficult, yes, but not impossible. With the Matrix, we'd have an edge they wouldn't expect." "An edge," Isolde muttered, her lips twisting into a faint smirk. "I like the sound of that." The crew of the Resolute gathered in the war room, a small chamber dominated by a holographic table displaying a detailed map of Dominion-controlled space. The ship's AI, Zelric, projected the locations of nearby Dominion vessels, highlighting a command ship that patrolled the sector's edge. "This one," Isolde said, pointing to the glowing marker. "The Malphorus. It's far enough from reinforcements to give us a fighting chance." "Fighting chance is an optimistic assessment," Zelric said, his voice tinged with dry humor. "Optimism's all we've got," Isolde replied. She turned to the crew, a small but determined group who had stayed with her through countless battles. "We're going in fast and hard. Raekir will need to get aboard the ship to interface the Matrix with their systems. Once that's done, we take control of the ship and make our escape." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. They were used to impossible odds. It was what had kept them alive this long. The Resolute approached the Malphorus under the cover of its cloaking field, slipping past the Dominion's perimeter defenses. The command ship was massive, its sleek black hull bristling with weapons and shimmering with energy shields. "Cloaking is holding," Zelric reported. "We're within range to deploy the boarding team." Isolde and Raekir suited up, their weapons holstered and their movements brisk. The boarding pod was a tight, cramped space, but it was their only way onto the ship. As the pod launched, a sharp jolt ran through them, the acceleration pressing them into their seats. Raekir glanced at Isolde, his silver eyes steady. "I hope your crew's trust in you is well placed." "It better be," Isolde said with a grim smile. The pod latched onto the Malphorus's hull with a hiss of pressurized air. Raekir quickly cut through the outer plating, creating an opening, just large enough for them to crawl through. Inside, the air was cold and sterile, the corridors illuminated by dim, flickering lights. "Zelric, patch into their internal systems," Isolde whispered. "Working on it," the AI replied. "I've isolated the command deck's location. Uploading to your visors now." A map appeared on their heads-up displays, guiding them through the labyrinthine ship. The Malphorus was far from unguarded. Dominion soldiers patrolled the halls, in tight formations, their black armor gleaming under the harsh lights. Isolde and Raekir moved like shadows, evading detection wherever possible. When confrontation was unavoidable, Isolde's plasma pistol and Raekir's alien weaponry proved a lethal combination. They reached the command deck without raising an alarm, but the heavy doors leading inside were locked with a multi-layered encryption system. "Can you get us in?" Isolde asked, her voice low. Raekir knelt by the control panel, his fingers moving quickly. "I can, but it'll take time. Keep watch." Isolde turned to face the corridor, her pistol ready. The faint hum of the ship's systems was the only sound, but her instincts told her danger was close. "Almost there," Raekir murmured, his focus unwavering. Suddenly, a squad of Dominion soldiers rounded the corner. Isolde's pulse quickened as she raised her weapon, firing in quick, precise bursts. The soldiers returned fire, plasma bolts scorching the walls around them. "Hurry up, Raekir!" Isolde shouted, ducking behind a console for cover. The doors slid open just as another wave of soldiers arrived. Raekir grabbed Isolde's arm, pulling her inside before sealing the doors behind them. "That was too close," he said, his voice taut. "Welcome to life on the Resolute," Isolde replied with a smirk. The command deck was a sprawling chamber filled with consoles and holographic displays. In its center stood the ship's command interface, a towering structure that pulsed. With energy, Raekir approached it, the matrix in hand. "This will take a few minutes," he said, inserting the matrix into a slot on the console. As he worked, Isolde scanned the room for threats. Her heart pounded as an alarm blared, the red lights casting an eerie glow over the chamber. "They know we're here," she muttered. The chamber doors began to shake as soldiers attempted to breach them. Isolde fired at the locking mechanisms, welding them shut. "That won't hold them for long," Raekir warned. "Then you'd better hurry," Isolde snapped. The matrix began to glow brightly, its light spreading through the console. Raekir's hands moved rapidly, interfacing with the Dominion systems. "Almost there," he said. "Just a little longer." The doors finally gave way, and Dominion soldiers poured into the room. Isolde gritted her teeth, firing relentlessly as she defended Raekir. The fight was chaotic, the air filled with the sound of plasma fire and the acrid smell of scorched metal. "Done!" Raekir shouted. The command interface surged with energy as the Matrix took control, overriding the ship's systems. The holographic displays flickered before showing a cascade of encrypted data. "Zelric, we're in," Raekir said. "Initiate remote control." "Affirmative," the AI replied. The Malphorus shuddered as its engines powered down, leaving it adrift in space. "Let's move," Isolde said, grabbing Raekir's arm. They fought their way back to the boarding pod, narrowly avoiding the Dominion soldiers now flooding the ship. As they re-entered the Resolute, Isolde barked orders to the crew. "Get us out of here, Zelric." The Resolute surged forward, towing the disabled Malphorus behind it. As they disappeared into the stars, Isolde allowed herself a rare smile. One victory down. The war was just beginning. The Resolute and its colossal prize, the disabled Dominion command ship Malphorus, drifted in the relative safety of a debris field on the far side of a dead star. The temporary haven offered little comfort to Isolde as she paced the bridge. The air buzzed with tension, her crew watching her with a mix of admiration and apprehension. Raekir stood at the engineering console, analyzing the data flowing from the Malphorus. The Lycoris Matrix had successfully overridden its systems, but the integration was far from seamless. "How long until we can make use of that thing?" Isolde demanded, gesturing toward the towering form of the disabled ship, visible through the viewport. Raekir's silver eyes flicked toward her briefly before returning to his work. "The Matrix is stabilizing the core systems, but full control will take time. The Dominion's defenses are deeply ingrained. They didn't design these ships to be hijacked. They didn't design them to fall into rebel hands either," Isolde retorted. Raekir allowed a faint smirk. "Touché." The tension was cut short by Zelric's voice crackling through the intercom. "Captain, incoming transmission. Dominion frequency. It's heavily encrypted, but they're hailing the Malphorus." Isolde's eyes narrowed. Patch it through, but route it through the decoy node. The bridge filled with static before a crisp, authoritarian voice cut through. This is Commander Saline of the Dominion Fleet. Malphorus, respond immediately. You are off course and unaccounted for. Explain your status. Isolde leaned toward the console, speaking softly. Can we fake a response? Raekir shook his head. Not without risking detection. If they suspect anything, they'll send reinforcements. A flicker of an idea sparked in Isolde's mind. What if we let them suspect something, just not the truth? The plan was risky, but Isolde was no stranger to risk. Raekir modified the Malphorus's response protocols to mimic a critical systems failure, broadcasting distress signals that suggested severe damage. The transmission was calculated to be just believable enough to delay Dominion scrutiny, while keeping reinforcements at bay. The gamble paid off. For now, they'll send scouts to investigate, Raekir warned as the false signal transmitted. Then we'll be ready, Isolde replied. In the Resolute's engineering bay, Raekir worked tirelessly on the matrix integration, while Isolde gathered her senior crew. The command room was dimly lit, the flickering holomap casting eerie shadows on the walls. We can't keep running forever, Isolde said, her voice firm. We've shaken the Dominion for now, but they won't stop until they've crushed us. We need to turn the Malphorus into more than a prize. It has to be a weapon. Kirana, the ship's pilot, frowned. A weapon? Against their entire fleet? It's one ship, Captain. Not just any ship, Raekir interjected as he entered the room, wiping his hands on a rag. The Malphorus can disrupt Dominion command chains. If we hit their central hubs, we can fracture their fleet, maybe even sever their control over occupied systems. Isolde nodded. It's not about taking them all down at once. We target their linchpins, cut their power where it hurts the most. The Lycoris Matrix gives us that chance. The crew exchanged glances, the weight of the plan sinking in. It wasn't just audacious, it was their only shot. 2 days later, the Resolute emerged from the debris field, towing the Malphorus into hyperspace. Raekir had made significant progress with the Matrix, and the command ship systems were now partially operational under rebel control. Their target was a Dominion relay station orbiting a gas giant. The station served as a critical hub for fleet coordination in the sector. Disabling it would leave the Dominion forces fragmented and vulnerable. As the Resolute and Malphorus dropped out of hyperspace, the gas giant loomed before them, its swirling storms casting an ominous light. The relay station was a fortress, bristling with turrets and shield arrays. Defenses are active, Zelric reported. They've already detected us. Good, Isolde said, her lips curling into a smirk. Let's give them a show. The battle was swift and brutal. The Resolute darted through the station's defenses, drawing fire away from the slower Malphorus. Isolde's crew worked in perfect sync, their precision honed by years of fighting together. On board the Malphorus, Raekir activated the Lycoris Matrix. The device pulsed with energy, sending waves of interference through the station's systems. Communications faltered, turrets froze mid-rotation, and the station's shields flickered. Matrix is online, Raekir reported. They're blind and vulnerable. Then let's finish this, Isolde said. The Resolute fired its main cannons, targeting the station's power core. Explosions rippled across the structure, the gas giant's light illuminating the destruction. The relay station disintegrated. The Resolute and Malphorus made their escape. The crew cheered as the station's wreckage disappeared into the void, but Isolde remained focused. This is just the beginning, she said, her voice low. We've sent a message, but they'll respond. We need to be ready. Raekir approached her, his expression unreadable. You're not just fighting for survival anymore, are you? This is about something bigger. Isolde met his gaze, her gray eyes steady. It always has been. Back on the Resolute, the crew regrouped. Victory was sweet, but it was also fleeting. The Dominion would not take this blow lightly. Raekir placed a hand on the Matrix, its glow casting long shadows. With this, we can change the tide of this war, but it's dangerous, Isolde. The Dominion won't stop until they've crushed you, and anyone who stands with you. They've already taken everything from me, Isolde said, her voice hard. Now it's their turn to lose. Raekir studied her for a moment before nodding. Then let's make sure they regret ever crossing you. The Resolute set course for its next target, the stars ahead blazing with the promise of rebellion. The Resolute and the captured Malphorus drifted in the shadow of a dying sun. The rebellion's audacious strike against the Dominion relay station had left a gaping hole in their communications network, throwing the sector into chaos. But the cost of victory loomed large in the minds of Isolde and her crew. On the bridge of the Resolute, Isolde leaned against the console, her gray eyes fixed on the fractured image of the galaxy displayed on the holomap. Fragmented Dominion forces scrambled to regroup, but the rebellion's newfound advantage was tenuous. Raekir entered, his usually calm demeanor tinged with urgency. We've intercepted a Dominion transmission. They've located us. A fleet is en route. Isolde's jaw tightened. How long? Hours, at most. Her gaze swept across the bridge, landing on her loyal crew. Then we make our stand. If they want the Malphorus back, they'll have to bleed for it. In the preparation that followed, the Resolute buzzed with activity. Weapons were primed, systems double-checked, and contingency plans drawn. Raekir worked alongside Zelric and Kirana, fine-tuning the Licorice Matrix to disrupt the Dominion fleet's coordination during the coming battle. As the crew readied themselves, Isolde took a rare moment of solitude in her quarters. The weight of her decisions pressed heavily on her. She stared at a faded hollow image of her family, long lost to the Dominion's merciless conquest. A knock on the door broke her reverie. "Come in." Raekir stepped inside, his silver eyes softening as they met hers. "You're carrying the weight of a galaxy on your shoulders, Isolde. You don't have to do it alone." She managed a faint smile. "This fight, it's more than vengeance for me, Raekir. It's a promise to everyone the Dominion has silenced, to everyone who still dreams of freedom." He nodded. "Then let's make sure those dreams survive." The Dominion fleet arrived, sooner than expected, emerging from hyperspace like a tide of steel and fire. The sight of their formidable armada made even the most seasoned rebels on the Resolute falter. "Steady," Isolde commanded, her voice cutting through the tension. "This is our moment. We've fought too hard to falter now." The Malphorus, its systems fully integrated with the Licorice Matrix, moved into position alongside the Resolute. The captured Dominion command ship gleamed ominously in the starlight, its towering presence a symbol of defiance. Raekir initiated the Matrix, its pulsing energy spreading across the Dominion fleet. The effect was instantaneous. Ships veered, off course, their formations breaking apart as systems failed. "Target their lead ships," Isolde ordered. "Let's make them feel this." The battle raged fiercely. The Resolute darted through the chaos, its smaller size giving it an edge against the cumbersome Dominion ships. The Malphorus, under rebel control, unleashed devastating firepower, crippling the Dominion's heavy cruisers. But the Dominion was relentless. Their fleet pressed on, and the rebels found themselves outmatched in sheer numbers. The bridge of the Resolute trembled as a direct hit rocked the ship. "Shields at critical," Zelric reported. "We're not done yet," Isolde said, her voice fierce. "Redirect all power to weapons. If we're going down, we're taking them with us." Just as the Dominion forces closed in, a ripple of energy surged through the battlefield. From hyperspace emerged a fleet of rebel ships, vessels from Allied systems inspired by the Resolute's Defiance. The Dominion fleet hesitated, caught off guard by the unexpected reinforcements. The rebel fleet surged forward, their coordinated assault tipping the balance of power. On the Resolute, cheers erupted as the tide turned. Isolde allowed herself a rare moment of relief, though her focus remained razor-sharp. "Press the advantage," she commanded. "Don't let them recover." The battle ended with the Dominion fleet in retreat, their flagship reduced to a smoldering wreck. The rebels had achieved the impossible, a victory against insurmountable odds. As the Resolute and its allies regrouped, the crew gathered on the bridge, their faces alight with triumph. Isolde stood at the center, her presence commanding, yet humble. "This isn't just our victory," she said, her voice resonating with emotion. "It's a spark, a call to every system under the Dominion's shadow. Today we proved that even the mightiest empire can fall." Raekir stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. "And it all started with one ship, one crew, and one unyielding captain." Isolde met his gaze, a rare warmth in her expression. "We started something today, Raekir, something that will outlive us all." The Resolute continued its journey, no longer a lone ship against the universe, but the vanguard of a growing rebellion. Across the galaxy, whispers of defiance spread, emboldened by the actions of a single crew. And though the road ahead remained fraught with danger, Isolde knew they had already won something priceless: the right to fight for a future unshackled by tyranny.